What it is you can see, is it allows me to write some text. So I can say like hello world, and this is not Python right now. This is just plain text. All right, I can bold it and do different things with it. But this cell right here, and you can kind of see, if you look up top here, it says Markdown, right? Which means that it's text, but I get to like bold it and other things. Over here, this says code, okay? So every one of these things, this is one cell, and this cell is in Markdown, and this is another cell, and this cell is code. So what's different, about these two cells is if I do like 1 plus 3, it just literally does the text. Whereas here, if I do 1 plus 3, right, it gives me that it's 4. Okay. So this is our first, this is Python. This is just numbers in Python. So this is an integer of the number 1. This is a plus operator, and then this is another integer, the number 3. Okay. And you can do with numbers everything that you would think that you could do with numbers. So we can divide them, we can multiply them, right? Like you just kind of figure out. But it's all the operations that you would expect with that with numbers. If you're unsure about things, like for instance, do I need this space here, right? If I want to do 1 plus 3 is 4, do I need the space here? I can just delete the space and try it, right? Like that's just. If you're unsure about something, you can always just try it in the code. And as developers, there's always more to learn. There's always things that we have to do that we haven't tried before. So you just try it as a small example, and you see if you're breaking a rule or not. If you are breaking a rule, like can I put like a bunch of spaces? Apparently I can, right? Can I put an enter, right? And that breaks. So here I just tried it, and it's telling me invalid syntax. And the other thing that's pretty nice is it's actually giving me an arrow where it thinks the problem is. So, if I wrote a lot of code, it's kind of letting me narrow in on where that problem is. Make sense? So this right here, what we just saw was an error message. And the key thing is that these error messages are, oopsies. Okay, cool. All right, so we're halfway done with our primitives. Sweet. Okay, next thing, text. So this is, again, we can see this is Python, it says code. So I'm just going to say like hello world. And we see that breaks. Okay? So with text, does anyone know, bummer, does anyone know how we can write text in Python? Yeah, go ahead. Perfect, right? So if we wrap it in quotation marks, then we're good. One way I'm able to think of like why I need to demarcate that this is the beginning of my string with the beginning quotation mark, and this is the end of my string with the end of with the end quotation mark is, well, like this white space could actually be important, with a string, whereas with an integer, it's not, right? Like this is still just the number, 3 that we're doing. So this allows me to capture that white space right there. We can do different things once we have text. Like for instance, we can call methods on our strings, right? This is text is just the Python word, or really like the computer programming word for that is a data type of string. All right. So we can, now that we have these different working with a data type of string, we can do different methods on it. So I just call the upper method, right, on string, and it returns to me a new string where everything's just capitalized. If I just do capitalize, right, then it just capitalizes the first letter. What's pretty cool is that you can see all the different methods that you can work with by putting dot followed by tab. So I do this all the time, right? So and we might just not know. So it's like count. Like what does that do, right? So one thing I could do is I could just try it, and that does nothing. So count, it says it takes at least one argument, which means I have to put something in the parentheses. If I want to see more details about this, there's 2 different ways I can do that. So if I want to see more details about the count method, one, I can move my cursor inside the parentheses and press Shift-Tab, and that actually doesn't work, but I know why. I'll have to show you in a second. The other way I can do this is I can put a question mark in front of the method. Let's try this. Hello world. just told me, so count takes at least one method. All right, I'm going to have to do this real fast. Hi equals that. And then I'm going to do hi dot count and then press shift tab. Yeah. So we're going to get this to this next, but you can see I'm pressing shift tab, and here it's giving me the documentation. All right? So it tells me to return the number of non-overlapping occurrences of a substring in the string. Optional arguments are the start and the end. So what I think this does is it actually counts the letters, right? So I can type in something like L, and this tells me that there are 3 L's here. Okay? So the broader point is that, once we have a data type, we can see all the different things that we can do with it by doing the dot and then pressing tab and then just scrolling through the different things. If we kind of remember the name, right, but we're not sure, we can just begin typing, right? And now here are some matching ones. Once I have something, right, then I can move into the parentheses and press shift tab, and then we can see the documentation. The other thing I can do, there we go, is I can put the question mark in front of this string or in front of the data type, and it will tell me, it will just print this out for me, which is pretty nice. Yeah.
Is that specific to the notebooks, or can you get it in any IDE?
This is specific to Jupyter Notebooks. Other ones will have their own methodology for letting you do that. All right. Cool. Good question. Yeah.
The one thing about Python I don't understand is the single and the double quotations.
Right. For right now, I think it's fine just to use single quotation marks. There are basically your company will have preferences or style guide for you to follow, and there will just be different rules when they say to use one or the other. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah. So strings. I mean, if you think about the internet, like basically it's all text. So strings are really important. So these are the things that you'll just be working with all the time. Is strings. Yeah.
Just follow-up question. What's the real driver for using Jupyter Notebooks versus just an IDE with an open file?
Yeah. So great question. So the question is, this is one way to code, right? Where I get to write out some text, and then I get to write off some code as well. There are other ways to code, I can use Vim, for example, and create a file and write Python out over here. The difference is, I'd say data scientists honestly use both. You use a Jupyter notebook when you're trying to tell a story. So when do you do that? If I want to say, okay, my sister's, for instance, is a doctor that studies diabetes, and if she wants to say, okay, we put our patients on this regimen, so they could grab the data of the patient data and then show maybe a regression plot, or plot out, if they take this much medicine, they recover in this much amount of time. So that's very visual, and there's kind of an argument to it as well. And what's nice about it is instead of just kind of saying that this data is here and trust us, this data is here, you can put the code directly in there, and so people could double check your work. So what's really nice is that actually an economist who won the Nobel Prize, I forget his name, he made a really good argument that basically all economic researchers should start doing this. Instead of just writing a simple PDF file, should be using a Jupyter notebook or an equivalent so that you can always check their work. And it's called it's basically reproducible data science is the term that people use. So the idea is that when things are a combination of both logic and when you're making an argument, right, when you're saying we should do this because, you might want to show the code and also tell some sort of story with it. The other good reason for using a Jupyter notebook is a fast feedback loop, right? I'm always kind of able to, explore different data and see, oh, this is what 7.5 is, and save that process of exploration. So you'll develop your own style with it, but also I think for beginners it's very good to start off with because of that feedback loop. Cool. Other questions? No? Okay, so here's the next thing that we need to learn, and that's a variable, and we've already seen it. So a variable is just the sense that, I might have the number 32, but I have no idea what this thing means, right? It could be the price of something, it could be somebody's age, it could be like part of an address. Like we don't know. Let's say it's the age. So what we just did was we assigned a variable. We assigned the number 32 to go inside this box, essentially. It literally is, just a space, just a location in memory on your computer. And we're giving that location a label, right? We're labeling it age. So we basically just like have a mailbox with the, instead of, it has the label age on it. And if I want to open up the mailbox and see what's inside, I just reference it. I just say, type in those same characters, and it's age. Notice that with a variable, I'm not demarcating it anyway. There's no strings wrapped around it. There's nothing there, right? It's just the text. And this kind of makes sense now why previously we saw, if I just typed hello, what it tells me is that the name, meaning like this variable name, hello, is not defined, right? It thinks that there's a variable there, but there's not. Yeah.
Does the variable, in this case, does the variable stay the same throughout that entire notebook?
Great question. So yeah, so I can go all the way down here, and if I go through age, then it still references it. One problem you might run into is if you, somewhere in the middle, say, redefine that variable. So how do you think we might redefine a variable? We can guess. Go ahead.
Set it as any other.
Yeah, age, and what should I type?
It's going to be 34.
Age equals 34. Cool, right? So now I do age equals 34, and then I execute this code. To execute the code, I'm pressing Shift Enter, but we'll get there. And now it says 34, right? So we can always reassign a variable by, assigning it to anything else. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay, now for some fun stuff. So we're going to move on to collections. So we're done with primitives now. Congratulations, guys. We're on to collections. So collections is basically like groups of things. So let's go to like any website. Let's go to ESPN.com. Now, lots of interesting things here. But really, how we could describe a lot of the content here is lists. So I'll give you an example. Here's all the lists that we see. This is a list of games right here, right? These are different games. These are all the teams I follow. Notice they're all from Philly. This right here is a list of articles, okay? This is a list of sports that they have. If I go here, this is a list of subtopics that I can go about those sports. This is a list of teams, right? Throughout the internet, basically, we're always finding lists. If you go to any Wikipedia article, right, our table of contents is a list, okay? This is a list. This is how developers would describe this thing. This part is just text. We know about text. And then this is another big list, right? We can actually get better. We'll get better at describing this later on. But one basic way of thinking about this is a list, this table. So lists are really important. And they're probably what I work with in terms of a data type more than anything. So we create a list with the square brackets, okay? So we have these beginning square brackets. This is right above your return key. The beginning square brackets and the closing square brackets. And inside those square brackets, you put another primitive. So we can put hello, right? We can put world, right? And that is our list. Now I want to maybe access this list. So I'll call this my greeting or something like that. And actually, let's stick with our list of cities. So Chongqing, Shanghai, Beijing, and Lagos. Is that right? Yeah, Lagos. All right, Beijing and Lagos. And we'll call this now my cities. Largest cities is fine. Okay, so I assigned a variable, largest cities, to the list, right? And this list we'd say it has 4 elements in it, or another way of saying it is it has 4 values in it. So the first element, the first value is Chongqing, right? It's a string. Then we have Shanghai, Beijing, Lagos. Now we can access these elements of a list, all right? So I'm just gonna do it and then we'll explain it. So here's the first one, right? Here's the second one, okay? So you can kind of figure out the rule, right? We go in order. This is called the index. This is an element at index 0. This is another element at index 1. So we go in order, right? And we always start at the number 0. And this is true throughout basically every programming language. You're always going in order and you're starting at the number 0. So if I want to get to Lagos, right, I would say 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So largest cities, oops. And then I'd say 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? And that's Lagos.
So the case does make a difference if you.
Yeah. So if I did like largest cities, that's different, right? Largest cities is not defined. What I do lots of times to make sure I don't have a typo is I'll begin the word and then I'll press tab. Okay, and that will kind of auto-complete for me. If there's multiple things, it'll give you those options that you can scroll through. So I'm always pressing tab to avoid typos. All right. So other things we can do is I'll delete some of these cells. So other things I can do is I can access the last element, and that's always with a -1, right? So I can always access the last element with a -1, and I can get to Beijing by going backwards by doing like a -2. So let's do that. All right. So I can just do -1, -2, -3, -4, 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Lists? Good? Bueno? Okay. A couple other things to show about lists. Largest cities. I can say I want to go, I think, begin at Shanghai and give me all the rest of the elements, right? So that's called slicing. So I'm going to say begin at Shanghai. That would be beginning at index 1. And go until all the rest of the elements. So I'm just going to have a colon here and nothing at the end. So let's go from 1 on. I can say go to 1, begin at 1, and then start, I think it says stop at 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, exclusive. Okay, so this is called slicing, right? So if I ever want to, lots of times I'll say, hey, just give me the first 3 elements of the list. So begin at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3 exclusive. That should give me the first 3 elements of the list, right? So that is called slicing. So this is just things to practice with, right? Is selecting elements from a list, right? We use our bracket accessors. And then we can say, start it with the first element, that's 0. Or we can slice by saying go from 0 to 1, 2 exclusive, right? Yeah. All right. 2 more things about lists, and then we're done with lists. And then we'll get hands on the keyboard and move some things. All right. Largest cities. We want to add another one thing to note. Notice that largest cities didn't change when I sliced my elements, right? That this is just giving me a new list of only 3 elements. All right. So this guy did not change at all. One more thing. So now I do want to change my list. We ended at Lagos. We're going to include Mumbai in there. So I can add an element to my list by using the append method. Again, like I could forget, maybe I don't remember if there's 2 P's or 1 or whatever. So I'm just going to start with like the letter A and then press tab, and it gives me that that's append. If I don't remember what append does, I can always do shift tab, append object to the end of the list. That was pretty good, right? And now I can type in Mumbai. Notice it doesn't show me the result, so I just have to type it in again. And now it shows me that it was Mumbai. Right? And then there's the opposite. Largest cities, .pop. Right? And that's now removing Mumbai. Right? And if we wanted to, one tricky thing is if you keep pressing Shift Tab here, it's just going to keep on executing the method. So now if I look at largest cities, right, I deleted so many of them.
So it was like removing the last one.
They're removing the last element from the list. Yeah, always. Now, if you're not sure, like maybe you want to remove more than the last element. So let's say largest cities. Let's reassign largest cities to equal all these things, right? And now let's say I want to remove maybe not the last one. Like I want to remove Lagos. So notice I'm just pressing Shift Tab and to read the documentation, and it says remove and return an item at index, and then it says the default is last. And we also see up here it says index equals -1, which makes sense, right? It's saying that this is kind of like the default argument. It says, by default, it's going to set the index to equal -1, but maybe I can set it to equal -2. So pop -2, and that's Lagos, right? And now if I look at larger cities, it has all of them except for Lagos. Right? So that's something I honestly didn't know before, like prepping for this workshop. I just, but by pressing Shift Tab, I figured it out. Cool. Okay, time for you guys. Here's what you can do. Go to jigsawlabs.io. www you can put before it doesn't matter. But jigsawlabs.io. Then you want to click on Login. Oh, and actually, let me do it in a different tab so that it's a similar process as for you guys. Let's see if this is. Okay, cool. What you'll see is you'll see another button that says Login. Sorry, I couldn't avoid that. And then you just click Sign Up. Put in an email, so do jeff2@jigsawlabs.io. I won't email you guys, don't worry. And then sign up. And then Introduction to Data Science, that's you guys. And look at all this. Beautiful. So this is everything that we went through so far. And what you want to do is click on the Exploring Lists lab. Yeah.
Is there another network I can connect to other than WeWork?
It's not WeWork, it's Nomad Work. So I can get you the Wi-Fi. Yeah, no problem. I think, yeah, it's there. But I expect there will be some issues setting up. So I'll help out with people. Yeah.
Jigsaw Lab?
Yeah, so it's plural. Jigsaw, LABS.
RS.
Yeah. .io.
.io.
Now, to do the work, right, you click over here that says like selecting data, and then you'll probably see like a blank screen for a little while. It's booting up a computer for you guys, so it's just going to take a minute. If you guys break everything, don't worry, I have a plan B. So there's always a plan B. So don't worry.
This is intro to data science. So which one are you on?
Oh, so click on Intro to Data. So if you go to jigsawlabs.io, then you click on Login.
Right.
Okay, so you click on Login, and then you click on Intro to Data Science, and then you click on Exploring Lists Lab.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll give you guys another minute or two just to get there. Then I'm gonna go through how to do like the lab, and then I'll walk around and help people set up. Sound good? .io. Yeah. All right, so let me go through just like one more minute of talking, and then I'll help you guys set up. So you do the lab. You can see it kind of like gives you some instructions. We're tracking Max's revenue for the first 5 months. Bar earned $300,000 first month and $285,000 second month, and so on. What you want to do is then start off pressing Shift Tab so you can assign revenues to equal this list. And then your next task, it says now select the first element from the list. So you want to play around with the code, right, until you can kind of like get it to work. To execute the code, to see if you're doing it correctly, again, you go to the cell and you press Shift Tab on it. Okay? And you have to just play around and try to, and you know that it's correct if your code, what you see below, matches what you see commented out right here. Sound good? All right, I'm going to walk around and turn on the lights and help people. Oh, and the other thing is feel free to work in pairs. Like when I coded, I oftentimes pair program. So feel free to work with each other. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's Jess with a capital G at 1216.
Do I need to sign up for the account? Sign up?
Yeah, just click on register or whatever.
Or sign up?
Sign up, yeah. Is that what it says?
Just,
You click on, yeah. How you doing? Oh, cool. You're there.
It took me like a couple.
Yeah. So try it by pressing Shift Enter. Right? That breaks.
Does it same in the Mac and the
I think it's like.
and the
Yeah, it works the same. Yeah. So
I'm trying to actually run it. I'm done.
the period, it's complaining about the period. Now try it again.
and then where are you supposed to
Is
there?
it length?
So you first have to define revenue. So first, that was really close. So you press Shift Enter there, and now press Shift Enter down there. And you did it. Good job. That's great.
What was the, it was considered long.
I'd rather get the error message.
Circumstances where you want your last to be in a certain.
Oh, a certain order in the list?
You want it to be last.
Yeah, you could sort the list. Like here, you can
When
see.
you're adding to the list.
You said Shift Tab.
You can do that too. You can reassign to be a specific element in the list. Like if I see here I have revenues, I can see revenues at like 1 at position 1 equals, and let's say equals like the word below.
And just push it every day.
No, it actually just it only replaces that 1. So that's going to replace. So if you look at it, it replaced this 285 with below.
And that is just got it.
Yeah, more often you'll kind of add to the list and then you'll sort a certain way. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so here we go, boys. Oh my god, no, sure. Get rid of it. I'm kidding, get rid of it. Wait, I can't be letting you copy my work. I want 100. No. You get something wrong? Wow.
Yeah, and it's the lab
I think I got a little bit of a head start.
This is just the intro. Oh, cool.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Yeah, bro. You gotta initialize the list. My son's just trying to brute force everything. I'm doing I'm thirsty. I want something cold. What's fancy? Like the other one. That's not the last one. There's more. Spicy more. Yeah. How about this? Oh, you meant like that's even the last option. I think he's like giving you an answer. Yeah, it's enough. He's giving you the answer, so you know what to say.
Oh, this is just for reading. So if you go to this word list lab, and then so if you go to explore list lab,
It's not easy, bro.
this actually doesn't show.
Were you not paying attention? What are you trying to do?
Wait a second. Yours doesn't work.
That's the question. Find the revenue earned in the last one. You got 31,000. Yeah, you got the answer.
Oh, cool. It's pretty good.
Well, that's right? What? It should be. It comes out right. I mean, it's fine. Oh, yeah, out. Yeah, out stands for alpha. No, so you have to match the code that's commented out. That's the answer.
Shift tab work fine for me too.
It works fine for me too. But you have to be inside the
Okay, I got you.
inside the parentheses. Yeah, I was just tagging for days. That was a struggle. tab shows you the documentation. Shift enter runs the code.
Cool. You don't have to read it inside the first place.
No?
You just have to be at the end of the function.
Ah. Smart. Wait, actually, does that work? Let me see. I want to see if it'll work if you have something after.
Oh, really?
I think as long as you're around the function. Or, actually, I don't. I don't know. I'm not good with
You
so
know,
much.
you know what
I
says?
just function up.
You learn about says, yeah. Yeah. Right? Yes.
There's like that like
There's a weekly meetup actually
What?
after hours. Originally when they're
No, no. I don't think so, man.
Yeah. There it's in Brooklyn and there's one here as well. They have different locations. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on the Microsoft website. That's the documentation. Well, Microsoft more so than Google. Well, I won't always give you documentation. I might just give you the answer. Sometimes you want the official
Don't worry about it.
documentation
That's alright.
with all of the possible things
All
that you
different
can
kinds of
answer.
versions.
oh, there's a no big thing or something like that.
Yeah, dude, that's what I said.
That would be cool.
It would be cool. That's why SQL fast.
Make visualizations.
SQL what?
SQL summary.
Yeah, I mean, some, to add.
Like logic or something.
Oh, you can do that.
I think you
Type in
need it.
put some.
You need
Some. And then in parentheses. No, it's it actually wraps around. So you do some parentheses records.
Data, it's a data tool. Data tool. Right. It gives you tables that you ask for.
Right.
So you can make visualizations out of the tables that look for offers.
Right.
But if you write your own query, you can't make a visualization off that.
Oh.
Unless you have like an extension for it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So that's like SSRS. SSRS is like you write a query, then it creates a visualization off that.
Yes. Yeah, but this stuff is like
This projector normally it's easily connects to like whatever like by Bluetooth, so I don't normally need a wire. I love it. It was so great.
It's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, so like this is what looker spits out. Right, so like the categories you want, stuff like that. So looker will spit this out. And then you can make a visualization. But choose to write it. It's like similar to Tableau.
All right, guys. Let's say like one more minute, and then we're gonna move on. I'm happy to review this stuff a little bit as well.
I think this data is part of maybe like at least for me. That's the main reason why I do it. Also I like found out about Spider Man on there. This meetup.
Keep working.
Because there's sort of like NYC meetups.
All right. How was the assignment? You guys able to figure it out okay? Yeah? One good question was like, what if we wanted to add up all these guys? So I assigned revenues. You can use this sum method to do that. Oops, too far. All right. So you can just do sum revenues. And it gives you the sum, which is pretty nice. If you want to, somebody was also kind of asking about like deduping or getting distinct revenues. There's something else. It comes from a like concept in logic, where a logic is just the set. If you think about all the unique numbers, it's like kind of like the set of. You might think of playing cards. Like the set of numbers would just be the numbers 1 through. I guess there's 13 of them, but it'd be those 13 different things in playing cards. Here, this is the set of unique numbers. So if I were to do the set of 1, 1, 2, and 3, right, it just gives you 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So sets are actually very similar. this is kind of interesting, right? Because one, I'm going to switch away from this. Let's see. Sets are pretty interesting because what you could see that I did was I actually like converted my list into a totally new data type. I'll just show you that again. There we go. All right, so I converted my list into a totally new data type. So this is 1, 1, 2, right? This is a list. These are my numbers, right? And then I can do my set of these numbers, right? And I have these set parentheses. Now this works for like any of our data types. So if I want to take, something like hello and convert it into a list, I can just do list parentheses and pass through my string, and you can see that tries its best to convert this into a list. Okay. Same thing. If I have something that's a string and is not an integer, right? This is technically not an integer because I have it in text. Like imagine I have, an address, right? So this is just part of an address. If I want to convert it into an integer, I can just type in int, right? And now this is an integer. Okay. So these are called like coercion methods, or actually there are a couple different names for them, but I like to think of them as coercion methods because they allow me to go from one data type to the other. Okay. All right. So that was lists. Lists are like the most important thing. I'd say they compete with strings for being like the most important thing, but they're super important. All right. Next is dictionaries. Anyone know what dictionaries is? You hear about this? Close. It actually is very close to that. Yeah.
It's like a key with a value?
Yeah. Great. So with lists, here's something pretty common is that these entities are all similar. They're all cities, right? But they're all different cities. With dictionaries, oftentimes we're describing the same entity and we're just describing attributes of it. So I'll give you an example, right? So here's Chongqing, right? So we'll say this is my city, right? We're going to give it a name. The name is this, right? Then we're going to say the country is China, right? So you can see kind of how I initialize this. So I just initialized the dictionary. I use what I call the squiggly brackets. I don't know what they're called. The squiggly brackets, and they're the same place where your square brackets are. You just press shift. They're right above them, but the same keys. And then this is my key value, right? So I have my key is name, then the value is Chongqing, right? The key is country. The value is China. If I want to do a different one, right? Like we'll do Mumbai. Then we do something a little different, right? This is Mumbai, and then the country is India. Okay. So here you can kind of see that this, as opposed to my list, which is describing 4 different cities, each collection is describing just basically one entity, right? You can think about like if I was describing a person, right? It would be Jeff, age 34, and then hometown is Philadelphia, right? So you can but it's generally describing just one entity. Now we can retrieve the attributes of a collection, of a dictionary, by doing the bracket accessor again, right? And here I'm going to type in the key. So I'm going to say Mumbai, let's do country, is India, okay? If I want to change it, like let's say, it switched, so I'll say the Mumbai, the country is not India, I'll just say not India, right? So you can see that I assign a different value to it, kind of like I'm assigning a variable, right? So I say Mumbai, here's the key, right? And the value is this string. And now when I look at it, right, it's reassigned. Okay? And same thing. So now if I want to say Mumbai, if I want to select the name, right, and retrieve that name, I do Mumbai, square brackets, right, followed by the string name. Okay? If you type something that's not in there, it just throws an error. And it tells you, right, most recent, it kind of like shows me that key error, right? Telling me that key is not exist there. Other things about dictionaries, oftentimes when I have a dictionary, your dictionary can be super long, right? So oftentimes when I have it, one of the first things I would say, what are all the keys, right? And that's normally the most important thing I'll do. And then sometimes I'll say, what are all the values? So I say mumbai.values, and here's mumbai.keys. Now if I want to select the first element here, I might try to do this 1, and that works. That doesn't work, because it says dict key objects is not subscriptable. So anyone have an idea as to how maybe I could go from here to selecting the last value? Because right now I can't do that because it's a dict keys object, and I don't know how to work with that. But if it was another data type, maybe I could work with it. Yeah, go ahead.
You can put it into a list.
Yeah, how do I do that?
Do list equals something.
So not equals, right? It's list parentheses.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is a list, and now I can say, give me the last element. Right? So that's why I always think of these as coercion methods, because lots of times I don't know how to get the data out of a dict keys thing, but I do know how to do a lot of things with lists. So I just I convert it to a list by wrapping it, right? And then now I'm good. Now I can select the first one or whatever. Okay. Pretty cool. Okay, last type of thing with dictionaries is that lots of times what you'll have, so now if I want to say, here's really my cities, I'm going to have a list of dictionaries. So I'm going to say, here's the first one, and here's the second one. And let's reassign it back to India. Okay, here's the second one. So now if I look at my cities, we can see that I have 2 elements in my list. The first one is a dictionary, and the second one is also a dictionary. So if I want to select the country of the last city, it's how do I do this? Well, in programming, we like to break things down into steps. So I want to select the country, right, of the last city. So I want to get back to the string India. So the first step is to select the last element of my list, right? I'm working from the outside in. So to get the last element of my list, I can just do -1. So now I'm halfway there. And now I want to get this text India. So to go there, I just use the bracket accessor, and I type the key of country, right? And now I'm into India. Cool? All right. So that's really great. Why is that really great? Look at this. This, if I was to describe this, I would describe this as a list of dictionaries. Okay? Right? This whole row represents the city of Chongqing, right? Then this whole row represents the city of Shanghai. And how does it represent these cities? Well, here's the city name. Here's the nation, right? Here's the city proper, which is basically giving me population size, it looks like city proper population, then the metropolitan area, and then the urban area, right? So this is a list, and each element in this list, it looks like, is kind of like a dictionary. Now what's really cool is I can use a library, so we're going to do that now. I can use a library called pandas, so let's do that. So I'm going to import pandas. In order to install it, I'd have to first do pip install pandas, because Python out of the box doesn't allow me to do what I'm about to do. But you can see I already have it installed. It keeps saying requirement already satisfied. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import pandas as PD, which means I want to reference the pandas library as PD. And the next thing I'm going to do is read some HTML. Okay? So I'm typing read HTML, and I want to pass through. If I look at this, it says input. This IO stands for input output. The input that I'm going to pass through is my URL, right? The website, the web address. So I'm going to pass that into here, pd.readhtml. Okay? And now what this is going to do is it's going to look for every what's called a table on the screen. So this is definitely a table, like an HTML table. You don't know that for sure unless you inspect it and look for the word table, but you can just guess whether or not there's a table on the screen. You can see it says table. You probably can't, but just trust me, it says table. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So I'm going to do pd.readhtml. I put in the URL, and I'm going to call it tables. Now it's tables. It's going to give me all of the tables on the screen. It's going to give me a list, right, of all the tables on the screen, right? If I look at the type, it shows me that this is a list. Now what I want to do is I want to go, this doesn't look so beautiful, but that's because I'm looking at all the tables. I want to just get one of the good ones. That one doesn't look like a good one. So that's the first element of the list, right? But it doesn't look very good. Let's keep going. Yeah, this one looks way better. Okay? So this is now all those city names, the nation, some image that it can't get, then these different data numbers, right? All the populations. Now that I have the right table, I'm going to call this my city table and assign it to a variable. So notice I'm kind of using variables to save my work. Once I've done it, I'm just going to store it as a variable, give it a good name, and never think about how I did it again, right? Until something breaks. So then I do that, and now I want to get to, some Python. I don't know what this thing is, but I want to get to Python to dict, records. All right. This didn't work perfectly, but it kind of did. This is again my key value pair. I'm going to use a different example because what this is, notice what this is. This is a list of dictionaries, right? Each element in this list is a different dictionary. It's not using, it should just be using the string. For whatever reason, it's reading it as something called a tuple, which is basically like a list. But notice that this is my key, this is my value. Here's my key, here's my value. So I'm going to call this my cities. So there's my cities. And when I get a big long list like this, I like to break it down. So the first thing I'll do is say, just give me the first element. And I said what I like to do as well is this dictionary itself can be pretty long. So I'll oftentimes say, all right, what is all the type of data that I can get from this dictionary? So I call .keys, and now I take a look. I'm like, okay, I can get the city data, I can get this nation data. Not bad. Okay, so this stuff's pretty good for me. Let's see if I can, I'm not sure. Let's see if I can access, just one thing. So I'll put in the brackets, and then I'll put in a tuple. Does that work? That works. It's pretty ugly, but it works. I would never create a dictionary that looked like this, but we'll do with what we can. Yeah.
Can you do it in a reverse order? Can you put city in first and then put 0?
No, you cannot. So you're always working from the outside in. So what I like to do is I look at the edge of this data structure. Okay. So this square bracket tells me my outside element, what is this data structure itself? One, I could ask it, but this is a list because I see the square brackets. Inside the list is an individual element, right? Is a dictionary. So when I'm being specific, what I have to say is, of this list of cities, give me the first element, right? Which returns to me a dictionary. And now that I'm working with a dictionary, now go get the corresponding value. The easiest way is just to copy that text and place it in there. Other questions about this? No? Pretty cool. Okay. We're doing great. So I'm gonna get to the visualization part because we're doing so well, which will be fun. Okay. Here's how we can visualize stuff.
Question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Why you put the records there to dict underscore?
Oh, this is just I looked it up. This is how I can go. This is called a data frame. It's a pandas data type. This is how I can go from a data frame into a list of dictionaries very easily, right?
That's like a key for you to get to the format you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Right. Otherwise, it's a little messier if I don't do that. Okay, so this is a format I want because I know how to work with lists of dictionaries. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start plotting some data. So I'm going to use a different library called Plotly. So again, you can do pip install Plotly, but I already have it installed. So I do the exclamation point, pip install Plotly. It's already installed. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say import plotly.io, kind of like jigsawlabs.io, as PIO, and that's just convention. It's not even that strong a convention, but it's what the documentation says. Okay, let's actually forget about that for just half a second. Let's Google some data, I don't know, scatter plot. Let's go to some images. Okay, this one looks pretty good. This is better. All right, they're all going to focus on this part of the screen. So what what we can kind of see here, if I'm going to describe this plot, is essentially, there's this container, like this whole thing is a plot. But I would say like this part here, like where I have this dollar sign of 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, this is all describing kind of like the visuals. This is the layout, okay, of the plot. And then this part here, this is really the data. So the data we're going to call a trace, okay? So for instance, these blue dots is the scatter data. So this is, one trace is my like blue data. And then this is actually like what's called a regression line, and it's trying to estimate or make a prediction as to what the sales would be if the temperature is this degree Celsius. But these are two different traces, right? They're conveying two different pieces of information. This blue data is like the actual observed data that it saw, like when it was 14 degrees, they got this many sales. And this orange line is something different, which is, it's just different information. So I'm going to call this two traces, okay? Two traces of data. So what we just learned, which is not so enlightening, is that we have this whole thing, this whole picture we're going to call a figure. And a figure consists of a layout, right? The fact that we have this like numbers here, and it says sales and temperature, and it also consists of our data. And our data consists of two different traces, okay? So now let's translate that into code, okay? So we have a figure. Our figure is a dictionary, okay? And our dictionary should have kind of two components to it, or in other words, two key value pairs. Anyone remember what I said? It was just about 20 seconds ago. Okay, so layout, right? Remember that word? Yep, layout. So our layout is going to be another dictionary. And then we have data, right? Which is a list of figures. Cool? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is do pio.show my figure. Okie dokie. Here's something that doesn't look that great, but it's a start. What's cool is that, I didn't really specify anything in my layout, right? If I wanted to, like maybe I think I could say the title is something like, my first chart, right? So we give it a title, that's nice. My data, remember what my data should have. My data is a list of traces, right? So this guy right here is my first trace. So this trace has some x values. So we'll say like 1, 2, 3, and it has some y values, right? So it has some y values, which would be something like 2, 4, and 6. And I guess this didn't really help that much. Yeah, all right. So now I have a trace, right? I have my list of traces, and I have a trace inside my figure. So now we have some data plotting here. All right, so I'm going to break this down just a little bit easier. So I'm going to call this my trace number 1, okay? And let's define it. Trace number 1 equals that. And this I'm going to call my layout. And that's that, okay? So this is just a little easier to see. So what's my figure? My figure is a dictionary. It has a key of layout. It has two keys of layout and data. Then data, remember, is a list of traces. And my trace itself, each individual trace is itself a dictionary. Let's make just one more trace, just so that you can kind of really see that it's a list of traces. So I'm going to say this is 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. So this should be a less steep trace. That didn't work. Oh, why not? We have to put in here, right? Trace number 2. Cool. All right. Cool. So now you can really kind of see, right? Here's my layout. Here's my figure. My figure consists of a layout, some data. My data consists of a list of traces, and each individual trace is a dictionary of key value pairs. X and Y data. So this is why like lists, dictionaries, editor, like this is really, we can do everything with these things. So this is what we want to do with them. What we want to do is, let's get a list. We want to use our data from online and like plot that data. So I want to get the data of the list of largest cities, right? And I want to plot, let's say like the city name and the city proper, okay? And go ahead and like plot them. And we'll all have fun doing that. Okay, so we'll delete this guy. Trace number 2, we don't need it. We just need one kind of trace. So how do I do something like that? The first thing is let's just see what we have. So we have this city table. Cities table. And remember that I also have my cities, which is my list of dictionaries, which is something I know how to work with. Now, what I'd like to do, if I want to get the name, all right, I can go through the first element, and let's call this is, let's assign this to the variable of Chongqing, right? And now once I have it, I'm going to say, okay, I can do Chongqing, and I want to get the city. So do bracket, the city. And then the other thing I want to do is I want to do, get the population, city proper is fine. So we'll get that as well. All right, another bracket. Okay, it's close enough. I would love to get a number that doesn't have that bracket 8. Is there any? No. We'll see how it works. Okay, so we have this. Now we're able to do this for 1, but what we'd really like to be able to do is like get this data. Remember, we want a list of names here, and we're going to want a list of like populations there. So we're going to have to, basically say for every city in our list of cities. Remember, we have this list of cities. So for every city in this list of cities, I want you to get the population city proper. Okay, we're gonna show you. So that's what it does. They all look the same. Oh, I know why. Because it says Chongqing. This needs to say for city. There we go. Okay, what does this do? For every city, okay, in cities, the only data we started with was cities, was a list of cities. Now, this is called a loop, and what we're saying is go through every element in my list and reference that element as the variable city, and then do whatever you want, right? So give me the city population, right? So that's why the way I break this down personally is by selecting one element, saying, okay, here's how I do it for Chongqing, and then the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've done it for that guy, is do the same exact thing for everybody, right? I'm just going to copy that code. The second thing to note, so I'll just sit with that. I can feel the thinking. Are there questions about that? Let me help, even though there aren't questions. I'll ask my own question. Where did this word city come from? I made it up. I could have called this foobar, right? So I'm saying for foobar in cities. But the problem is now I'm saying every element in my list I'm going to reference as foobar. So how do I do that? What do I have to change now?
Change city.
Exactly. So I have to change city to be that. So now every city is going to go through every city, reference it at foobar, and this is what I'm going to want to select. Okay?
So you don't have to predefine foobar or city.
I'm predefining it here. Like this word foobar is only available to me inside of this line of code. After this line of code, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Okay? It only exists during this line. This is called a block variable, but it's like a temporary variable. It only exists right here because this is the only purpose I have for it. Is just to reference each element inside my list of cities.
Is that line considered a list comprehension?
It is.
All right.
I skipped like 3 steps to get in like teaching to get here. So like in a real class, I'll break this down for like 20 minutes, but hopefully you can kind of get this.
Those are just keys. Population and city proper, they're just a key for whatever you look through right now.
That's true. So if I typed in a key that did not exist on each one of the dictionaries, I would get an error. It would break. It could be referencing my dictionary and breaking. So notice I'm pretty close with this. This Chongqing, like I kind of have all the text I want. If I want to like get rid of this 8 thing, I can say select everything up to the last like 3 characters. right? So notice how I did that? Like if I said up to the last one character, that gets me there. Up to the last two, let's say up to the last three characters. Now this looks a lot better. So again, like I like to solve this for one element, and then it's actually not going to be perfect because, yeah. So I kind of chose a weak example. Let's do U.S. cities. Sorry, I'll do this real fast. Wiki U.S. cities by population. This is easier. All right, let's do this. Yeah, I'll do this one, and then you guys will do the one on ESPN. Okay. I'm gonna let you guys kind of tell me what to do. So I have this URL. All right. I'm gonna name it URL. What should I do? What should I type? Go ahead.
The read HTML thing.
Okay. How do I do that? What should I type?
First you have to import pandas as PD.
Perfect. Import pandas as PD. Perfect. Because I can't read HTML from the normal Python library. So I need to import this other library, pandas, and reference it. Basically, this is like a variable. Reference it as PD. Then the next thing, yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're aliasing that, like, does that have to be PD or can it be just?
It can be anything, but basically all developers. Pandas is widely used, and it's almost always, it's basically always referenced as PD. But again, if you wanted to, you could do anything and then do that.
You can also
Read.
not have the ads and just use pandas
That's correct.
everywhere as well. It's
That-
like a shortcut.
That's correct. Yeah.
So you just said import pandas?
You can just do let's do that.
An alias.
Yeah. So I can do pandas dot, and now again, like I can press tab. Actually, I can't. But it's pandas.readhtml. And readhtml, what should I pass through here? URL, right? Cool. So in this, I'm going to call my tables, right? This is kind of a mess. Okay, so there's my tables. And now I'm just going to go through them one by one until I find one that looks good. Table 1, that's not good. Table 2, not good. Table 3, still not good. There we go. This one's good. And look at this, way better. Looks way better. All right. So this is I'm going to call this my cities, or my cities table. What's next? Let's take a look at where I am. So I have my cities table. Let's think about what I want to do. I want to get just my city names, and I want to get just my, let's say, this 2018 estimate. How am I gonna work with this data? Well, the keys, but like this is a data frame right now. Like I don't even know how to work with data frames.
You can look at the order that they are in, right?
Say that again?
The order that the keys are in, and then.
Close, but the thing is, I can't call key. Well, actually, I can, but what I want to do is I want to get to data that I know how to use, right? So I want to coerce this into a list. Remember this part? So I called toDict records, and the reason why, if later on maybe you wouldn't do something like this, but what this does is this gives me a list of dictionaries. So right now, if you look at what you're working in, you're working in Python. You're back to working in Python. So this is just an ordinary list that I'm working with. Before, if you looked at what this cities table was, this is called a pandas data frame. And the point is like, let's avoid for now working in a pandas data frame. Let's try to avoid working with things outside the normal Python library as much as possible. Okay, so we have this list of records. This I'm just going to call my cities. Okay, so cities is a list of cities where each element, right, if I want to explore it, each element represents a city and has this data available to me. Now, the next thing I want to do is loop through my cities. So I like beginning by putting my brackets, and now I'm going to say what? How about this? What we want to wind up with, right, is a list of city names. So you want to wind up with New York and Philadelphia, right? And all the cities in this list. And what we're starting with is this thing. Okay? So we're starting with a list of dictionaries. We want to wind up with a list of just our cities' names. So try with a partner to get from here to here. Like your code won't work, but just think about it and talk and try to write it down. And if you have to, Google list comprehension, but just try it.
It makes like it saves like a lot of spaces for multiple locations. Oh, I don't like reading it. I feel like it's a lot easier to read when it's broken up.
City, CIP.
That was the key also?
Yeah, that's
They need like,
I'm sorry.
Where's
I have to pay attention, I'm sorry.
How do we get to just the name of the
Yeah.
cities?
So we're looking to filter out certain cities.
What you want to do is, we have these lists of cities. What we want to do is just get to certain attributes. Like I want to get to what's the city name for every city here. Now I just want to get to a list of all my city names, like down to here, down to New York, Philadelphia. Whereas right now I almost have too much information. I have this complicated list of dictionaries. Can I get to just a list of names?
So you want to pull the right key. But you want to do it in a loop. Because your
Is there a
database
blank,
is a dictionary.
I don't know, HTML sheets where you pull in HTML into.
Oh yeah, the way you do that is you do this panda read HTML, but
In Jigsaw?
what's that?
In Jigsaw?
Yeah, you can do that in Jigsaw. You can do that. Yeah.
That's mine. Because it is a city.
All right, just give one more minute on this. Just I just wanted you guys to be able to think about it for a little bit. Oops, what happened there?
Right? So it's in here. You need key row. And it's city. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. No. I did say cities and cities, that makes no sense. I said I wanted to change to city, and you said you had it at city. I had that. What do you mean? I know that. It is. Yeah, that's nice. You want cities. I said it's for city and city. Hey, doesn't matter.
All right. Okay, let's.
You need the key. You don't have the key.
Hey guys. Okay, so let's go through this. This is hard, and this is like the one part. Actually, I rushed through all of it, but this I really rushed through. So, all right, here's the list of cities. What we want to do, right, is we want to go through a loop. So we're gonna say, for each city in my list of cities, okay, do the following, and the following is reference my city and select out the city name, which has the key of city right now. Now, to make sure that this thing returns a list, like this actually won't work, but I can get this to work by wrapping this whole thing in square brackets. Okay? And now this works. And now this is just a plain old list right here. So I'm going to go through that one more time. So I'm going to say, for each, we start with our list of cities. This is a big long list of dictionaries. What I'm going to do is say for every city inside my list of cities, so go through each element, each dictionary in this list, reference it as city, and when you get there, right, select out, do city bracket city, give me the corresponding value to this city thing. So I say city bracket city. Okay, so for every city in my list of cities, reference that element, and then give me the city name. Okay, and then wrap that whole expression in square brackets, and that gives me a list of city names. It looks good, so I'm saving it as a variable called city names. All right, we're going to do it one more time for the populations. Okay, so here's my list of cities again. Again, like one way to do this is just select the first city. So New York. I should get New York by doing cities bracket 0. Here's New York. And now I go to city bracket New York, and let's say 2018 estimate is good enough for me. So that gives me, this is exactly what I want, right? And this is an integer, everything's great. So now the next thing for me to do is get a list of these 2018 estimates. All right? What should I start typing?
4.
Okay.
Population estimate.
Okay. It's okay if we start off a little off. Population estimate in cities. Okay, so we're going to say actually for city in cities, for each individual city in cities, and then we're going to say return to me the population estimate. Okay, so it's but the thing is like I can't just type in the word population estimate or 2018 estimate, right? This is a key. So it's this key. So I have to reference. I have to say basically like access the key of a dictionary, right? Of each individual dictionary. So every time I go through a city, that's a different dictionary. So I'm basically saying the first time it's New York, the second time it's Los Angeles, the third time it's Chicago. Each time you go through, you want to say get to that key of 2018 estimate. Yeah. Then the return value is a list. So that's why you can think of putting these brackets there. All right. And now here are my populations. So I'm going to call this my pops. Okay. So it's always, for me, it's always 4 element in list. Okay. And then it says, what do I want to return? And then finally wrap that whole thing in a list. So this is, like I said, this is something that we kind of really blew through, but hopefully you can just get a sense of when you're more familiar. It's not a lot of typing to get this stuff done. All right. So now guess what? We have a list of populations. Boom. We have a list of cities, city names. Okay. Boom. So what's next? So the next thing is let's create our figure. Our figure equals a dictionary that has some data in it. And my data has a list of traces. So I'm going to call this my trace again, my trace 1. Now my trace 1 has some x values in it, and it has some y values in it. So these x values, I could just put in like some sort of list here, and then here's my y values. I could put in another list there. But really what I want is I want the x values to be the names, and I want the y values to be the populations. Right? And these guys are already lists, so I can just do, right? So I should be able to do city names, and y is the populations. And that's my figure with my trace. And now I'm going to do PIO. Did I import it? Import plotly. Sorry, .io as PIO. And then I'll do PIO.show that figure. I think there are a lot of cities. There we go. Pretty cool. So there's New York, San Diego. Well, I don't know why. I guess I'd have to order it by them. The other thing I probably want to do, I can change this from being a line graph to setting the mode to be scatter. Should be a lot nicer. Mode scatter. I thought I could. Oh, I think actually markers. Sorry. There you go. Yeah. So this is actually a little nicer. So yeah. So I know that this was a little fast, but the point is that once you feel more comfortable, like you can be pretty fast at getting data from the internet and plotting it and like starting to make sense out of it. That sound all right? Questions before kind of wrap up? No? Demoralized? Good? How do you feel? A little of both? Okay. Yeah? All right. So just to like wrap up, what did we learn? So the main thing that we learned, honestly, was like strings and integers, right? Those are our 2 primitive data types. We saw that we can, call our methods, and we can find methods by doing, type the string, finish the string, type dot, and then tab, right? Then we saw that we can kind of see what the documentation of an individual method by doing the dot. Let's say it was like upper, right? And then move our cursor to the parentheses, press Shift Tab, and then that gives us the documentation. Then the next thing we did was we moved on to collections, right, which was our lists and dictionaries. We said that lists were actually separate items. Each element is a separate item, but it's kind of like separate items of the same thing, like our list of cities, our list of sports, all that stuff. And we saw just basically the main thing we saw was how do we select elements. So how do we select the last element, -1, how do we select the first element, 0, right? And then how do we slice elements, 0, colon, right, wherever we want to end. Then we saw dictionaries. Dictionaries, each individual dictionary represents a separate entity, like our dictionary represents a city, right? Like the city of Philadelphia, that's name, population, these are all different keys. We saw coercion methods, like when we coerced dict keys, right, into a list. And then finally we saw, plotting, but what we really saw was that plotting really just consists of our data type of, a dictionary and a list. The two libraries that we used were Pandas and Plotly. And then finally, my plug, you'll learn a ton in 5 weeks. Check out the course details. This is the first 5 weeks. Python, data dashboards, which is like turning these plots into websites, learning APIs, web scraping, SQL, but really also like one of the most important things we'll get through is object orientation, which is like, to me, that just makes you a professional developer, and we'll do testing. So those are like two components that you'll be like a legit developer with that. If you want to be a data scientist, this will definitely get you there. It's 6 months. It's 3 days a week. Each one of these programs is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So it's Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30 to 9:30. Saturday, full day, 8 hours. But that is like, to me, that is how you can become a data scientist or become a good back-end developer without quitting your job and joining a boot camp. And that really, like, you have to save basically like $40,000, because if you consider the cost of the boot camp plus your opportunity cost of not working and living in New York, that's being even generous. It's 40 grand. So this then goes through tree-based models, and then finally, this is finally where we like get to a lot of the math components of data science. I save it for the end in case some people get lost during it, but really it will be fun. Cool. If you guys want to apply, just click apply or talk to me, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. Thank you guys. Yeah.
Are you teaching all those classes?
Yeah, I'm teaching all that.
Are they taught here?
Yeah, they'll be taught here. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Probably not in this room. There's actually another room I like a little bit better that we'll be going in there. Yeah. I don't know about the projector. I think we might find another option, but it's okay.
And it's all Python?
It's all Python. It's all Python. This library is like this Plotly library. It actually renders out JavaScript, but you write everything in Python. So it'll be the same thing. Like the only thing that we'll also learn is some HTML, because for scraping data, it's important to learn HTML. And then also for building dashboards, it's important just to understand HTML conceptually. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
There's no R involved?
There's no R. Absolutely not. The reason why is because a couple reasons. One, with R, so R is used lots of times in comes from like academia historically. It also sometimes in the finance realm you'll see R. The reason why it comes from those two areas is because the data lots of times is pre-formatted for you. Okay, in R. R is not great at scraping data, at hooking into like e-commerce website, right? So if you think about you want to go work for Amazon or Spotify or whatever, their code is going to be written in something that's not generally compatible with R, but their entire code base might be written in Python. Python is the second most popular language behind JavaScript today. So it's 3 times more popular than Ruby, for those of you guys who know Ruby. So that's why it's not a question that we'll be learning Python. Yeah.
Do you go over like different frameworks like Django or Flask or?
Flask. But the one thing to note is that the first 5 weeks are the fundamentals of coding. Well, actually, like even more than that. It's basically turning you into a back-end developer, but it is not a course in front-end web development, right? So you will not learn JavaScript. That's the main thing. So if you joined a programming bootcamp where you wanted to become a web developer, the second half of the course would be JavaScript, React, things like that. This goes instead into into data science, which is how do you extract information from that data and make decisions with that data, right? So that's why like it ends. This will go into like NLP is natural language processing. How do you read text and extract insights from that at scale, right? Yeah. And it's designed, so my background, right, I developed the data science program at Flatiron School, which means literally it was just me for 6 months, and that was the whole department. And wrote a lot of the intro curriculum and set up the syllabus and hired a team, things like that. And then I rewrote it because I think that I could do a lot better. The main difference that it's a much more applied than the first time around. And I'm sure Flatiron School and a lot of them have evolved since, but I can just say I've learned a ton as to how to structure a course in the past year. And it means that, when you see things like feature engineering and feature selection, they're really like two of the most important components in data science. Is if you're going to tell me how do you value a stock, or how do you figure out, which customers are most important? Well, this is, you start with maybe 100 different features or 500 even, and you want to narrow that down to 7. Well, there's like different techniques as to how to do that, and how to make sure, how to as fast as possible extract, filter, turn your data of like maybe 20 different features into 500, right? So those are the things that like I really spent a lot of time developing when I was at yeshiva and stuff like that for the students. Yeah. Cool. All right. Ruby and JavaScript. Yeah, Ruby, JavaScript, React, things like that. Python is really great, to be honest. Other things, I think that's it. Yeah. Other questions about this or anything?
Does data science lose its appeal when you have to deal in an overly governed environment, like you deal with a lot of financial institutions that deal with models and so forth? Has that been your experience?
No,
Been in that type of environment?
yeah, I mean, not total. I'll say some of the things, because my brother, he works at Lockheed Martin, and he actually had to deal with the government, a lot. So the one restriction that he had to work with was sometimes he couldn't work with certain open source software because he had to work with he had to be concerned about all the security. But he worked in cybersecurity, like for the State Department. So that was basically the most restrictive environment you could come into. He still could have done basically everything in here. There wouldn't have been a restriction on it, because the most open thing would be something with cloud computing. But he actually like taught me the cloud computing component, so I know he uses this professionally. So yeah, I don't think so. I think the hardest thing probably is that's where in a financial institution you wouldn't be scraping your own data, I think, but you would probably be using APIs. And again, with APIs, using something like Python is really good. Yeah. So using APIs, they can be just as secure as anything else that you get in data. Yeah. So in APIs, by the way, is the way like Google can give you, or Spotify can give you, not only like the songs you listen to, but the danceability of each song. Like they have so much internal data, and they release it to developers lots of times. So you can just get a lot of that data from APIs. All right, I'll be around. Feel free to say hi. Thanks.